They say that imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So let's talk about how I got flattered recently. So this is MO98. This is the game that we released a little bit over a month ago at this point. And unfortunately, it is cursed to be at 69% until the day I die. That's not really the main talking point now. Let's take a look at another game. And I'm going to start by selecting this screenshot. Tell me, what do you notice between these two games? Market Chain 98. Build Your Market Chain is a retro incremental game set inside a nostalgic 90s operating system. This game was sent to me by one of our viewers recently. It was like, hey, did you guys see they made a clone of MO98? And whilst this is a different setting, no, this is a different like loop. I don't know exactly. Like, this is not MMO related. The UI, the more you look at it, the worse it gets, basically. As in, like, this is just the exact same UI, basically, in like how they have like the IRC chat, and then how we have the IRC chat, operations, the statistics, stats, you know, we have graphs on our dashboard, you know, you can keep going. It's like, are all of these elements standalone unique? No, but the composition and the way it is implemented, I think it's a little bit very similar. So this is game number one. And then there was this other game that I actually still have open. I was playing this a little bit earlier, ScamMO, which is like, if this one, Market Chain 98, was a game that focused on, okay, let's lift the UI from MO98 and make a game around that. ScamMO, just no 98 there, takes the idea of MO98, but puts it in, what if it was Windows Vista with like that more like fruitiger arrow style, and actually was surprisingly well implemented still. But like the concept here is, once again, you make MMOs, you're kind of an evil guy, and you go from there. And you know, for this game, you may be saying, hey, this could be developed at the same time as MO98 was developed, and you just had the boat idea. If you look at the Steam store page, this guy's literally called Bite Me Puppet as his Steam developer page, which I think is kind of a weird thing to do. I think, you know, this is a viewer game. Like, you can't make it any different. And I want to talk a little bit about, honestly, am I gonna crash out about how these people are unoriginal? Honestly, no. Because I want to talk to you guys, for the sake of transparency, about the development of MO98. And MO98, maybe you knew it, maybe you could have guessed it, was heavily inspired by this game, Execute. Execute, where Payne Robinson made a video, I think, about like making incremental games, and then I had also played this before, and I was like, okay, this looks like a very cool art style. Maybe I could do something with this. So let's now, you know, similar to how we did here, the screenshot comparison between these two games. Now let's take a look at Execute. I took this screenshot here. And actually, I went back into the archives and I found the very first screenshot that I sent to William, my other developer, for the UI of MO98. And that was this. You know, these were the first two screenshots of MO98, like the UI that I designed. And like, let's once again not kid ourselves. Maybe it's a little bit less on the nose, but you can 100% tell like the inspiration, right? Come on, what are we doing here? And I'm gonna fess up to that. I started making MO98 by just looking at, okay, how did Execute do it? And rebuilding that in Unity. Now, in the case of Market Chain 98, this is made in Godot. So it's also not like they just decompiled the game and lifted it. That's also not what we need to talk about, because we have to be honest, like, you know, this is what everyone uses, Retro Windows GUI, which is just a free asset store, a free asset pack on itch.io. I use it. I'm pretty sure that Market Chain 95 or 98 is also using it. We did like some custom elements for MO98 as well, and I like tweaked some of the stuff, but for the most part, it is built upon this. What do I want to talk about this? I think this is good. This is my hot take on the side of, should you copy games, yes or no? I am firmly in the stance of yes. For both ScamMO as well as less for Chain Market 98. One of my favorite ways to design games, this is kind of an on-the-cuff video, is by researching other games and just being better than other games that have proven that they have an interest but maybe not work well. So my biggest piece of advice, if you are making a game that is, for example, similar to MO98, this is a website, I'll link it down below. It's called nicholasnotes.com, where you can quickly see, review, and feedback about other games. Find out why players hate the gameplay loop repetitiveness in MMO98. See the full analysis below. And this is like, this is not sponsored or whatever. I've never talked to this guy. I don't pay for this either. I'm just on the free tier. You can just see what are all the problems MMO98 has and what are the things they like. So this is by aggregating all of the reviews, basically. And be like, hey, I'm going to make a better version of MMO98. Step number 1, look at what MMO98 did bad. You can do this for other games as well, such as, for example, a game about feeling like, oh, find out why players hate. And, you know, this is kind of dramatic, of course, but you can once again see what are the trends. Oh, the upgrades kind of feel very linearly. The gameplay might be too repetitive. It's too short, whatever. This should be your starting checklist of how am I going to make this game better? What am I going to do to make this game better than what already exists? Because I think that is my one crucial sin. I will never judge you for trying something different and like taking inspiration from something, but I will judge you if you are unable to make your derivative product better. Derivative, not like in a derogatory way that I mean it, but just like, you know, own up to your inspiration, I guess. Honestly, it often can work even really well if you own up to your inspiration. For example, when we posted, this was one of the top posts, like 500 upvotes, 83,000 views over on the Incremental Games subreddit. I'm like, this was the post that I made announcing MMO98. And then here, I also just like, hey, I love the Windows 98 art style from Execute. It inspired me to make a game around 90s Management Studio. Because immediately also then, people who were like, hey, I enjoyed Execute. They already, you know, like, I liked Execute. Give me more of similar game, basically. So that's that whole thing. Now, what is the one thing, especially with Market Chain 98, that I kind of do want to warn you from? Because, of course, let's look back at this was the first UI for MMO98, and this is what we ended up with. So you can see some things remains, like, for example, having the statistics bar on the side, but a lot of things also changed. And I think that is an important thing. Why do things change? Because I've played both the demos. In the case of Market Chain 98, I think the purely lifting UI elements means you don't really understand. Like, you can't really understand what I, as the developer, was thinking as to why did I put operations here? Because for us, the operations was a very core thing. In their game, not really as much. Also, why did we have the IRC here? How did we decide to have these tab windows? I think they're not using these as optimally, for example, basically. And I think that's fine if you start with it. Now, maybe you wanted to have a little bit of a different version by the time your store page went live. I don't know. I hope you kind of evolve still. That's my one thing, because not that it looks overtly similar, but just because you're going to run into problems, most likely, that your game has a UI that's not designed for your game. Like, you're trying to scram, like, you're going to have to make changes. That's basically what I'm saying here. Not because otherwise I'm going to cease and desist your ass, but just otherwise because the game doesn't feel as good to play. That's what it comes down to, most likely. Because, for example, they had like some stats here, like night shift. It's a very weird position to put that, where they would probably, if you are lifting UI elements anyway. Do I have a UI element visible right now? No, unfortunately not. But like in our UI, there's like a banner that can appear here that's like big and flashing, and it's like servers overloaded. Would make way more sense to move this from like a pretty inobvious to the side element to something that's maybe more in your face. Having the clock here, for example, it's also different. Our clock is just purely for fun, to showcase like the time. This is not a whole like comparison of like why my game is better than your games. I think this game may also not be from a Bite Me Games member. It's always possible, of course. I have no idea. It could also just be a studio, because of course I do look at the other games they make, that just looks at what is performing well on Steam and then is like, let me just rip that off, because, you know, they haven't released that many bangers in terms of previous games. But hey, maybe this is the breakout hit for them. So I guess one like fun thing to talk about as well is like, okay, does this mean that I should wait longer with talking about my game? Because I know ScamMO, I think we can actually go and take a look. I keep switching back and forward, sorry for that. The first prototype was released 38 days ago. So that is basically right before MMO98 released. I can't seem to see the exact thing, but hey, he's still updating this. Well, good for you. If I didn't have a YouTube channel, maybe like there wouldn't have been as many developers who are going to flock on my ideas. If you're unaware also, like these store pages are not live yet, but we recently started talking about like our next game ideas on some of the live streams already for like, for example, net profits. They're not final yet. You know, we're open about development because I think to the most part, ideas are cheap and I can give you all of the ideas I have in my brain. And it's like, you can technically now be like, hey, I see Marnix is working on a fishing game as well that has Mahjong. Let's fucking go. I'm going to be one step ahead of it. I'm going to develop it before him. Yes, there's always a risk that happens. But I think even if I gave you the game design document for net profits, the game that I just showed, like the fishing game, you would end up making a completely different game than me. And I think you shouldn't even really compare those two things. I think that's the beauty. I can give you the same exact game design document. I give it 5 people in our audience and we're going to end up with 5 different games. So that's why I'm like, just talk about your game to people still. Don't be scared of like, oh, they're going to steal my game idea and all of that. So I think that's kind of the main thing. I wanted to make a video also just to kind of get back into uploading videos because it's been a while. If you do feel like making a game that is a direct rip-off from one of our games that we've already released, do yourself a favor and head to the link down below as well if you want to work together with me and I can help you make your game better. You don't have to just only rip off my games. But that's kind of just the brief updates. I just saw like these games float by and probably there's more of them, but it's one of the things that I despise the most is like developers being like, I don't want to talk about my game idea unless you sign my NDA because someone can steal my game idea. As someone who has now had someone steal their game idea and their visual in 2 separate like occasions, it really doesn't matter. I think what matters more is that you still make the best game you can and let the other people do whatever you want. To a certain degree, this video could be summoned or like shortened as never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. I mean, I don't know if this is like a true mistake. I'm not going to be sitting here giving them all the secret tips and tricks on how to make their game better, because there's definitely some issues with it as well. Just focus on yourself, King. Work on your own game and make sure that you ship your game. Yes, of course, Steam is competitive. There's a lot of games coming out all the time. Just, you know, try to raise the bar for yourself and just make a good game. That's unfortunately what it comes down to. So anyways, that's all I have to say. If you're new here, we're a studio, we're making our own games, and we're on the road to building a $1 million studio. And maybe even more. So if that's something that you're interested in, then be sure to head down below and subscribe, and you'll be notified whenever we upload these videos. So that's all I had to say. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!